Super Mario Bros. Is no doubt one of, if not the most revolutionary game franchises to ever exist. The main gameplay formula of this game series was to go from level to level, world to world, until you eventually reach Bowser in a 2D, side-scrolling platformer. You could only go in two directions. In 1994, Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of the series, thought two directions was cringe and decided with the introduction of 3D graphics, Mario could potentially move around committing Goomba genocide in 360 degrees of movement. So, on September 7th, 1994, the production of Super Mario 64 began, and eventually released on June 23rd, 1996, along with the... Super Mario 64 is an absolutely extraordinary game. You've probably heard how it revolutionized 3D gaming and was the basis of all 3D platformers, just like my goat, and that's true! The game works much differently than the Mario games before it. You have a star system, where each of the 15 worlds have 6 stars from completing missions, and 1 star from getting 100 coins. You need 70 stars to beat the game, unless you know how to backwards long jump, and there are a total of 120 stars, with 105 stars in Worlds and 15 in Peach's Castle, the hub world. I wanted to set out on a journey to not just complete Mario 64 in one sitting, but get all 120 stars in one sitting. Ladies and gentlemen, today we answer the question, can you 100% Super Mario 64 in one sitting? Let's find out! By the way, you can totally check out the original story on my channel's live section. It's just long, so if you have a life, you probably can't watch it all in a short period of time. The run begins like all other Mario 64 playthroughs, with the most iconic superstar of the franchise coming out of the pipe. Toad! That's right, it's Toad's turn to go kick Bowser's ass this time around. See, for this challenge, I'm playing a version of the game called Co-op Deluxe. Although it's used for online multiplayer, I'm using it as a PC port that allows for mods and such. I am playing a normal run, but I thought it'd be much more fun to change it up and play a different character that's not Mario. After hearing Lakitu yap about things you already know, we head to Bob-omb Battlefield to snag our first star of many. Bob-omb Battlefield is no doubt the most iconic stage in the entire game, unless you're a theorist. The thing with this stage that I like the most is that it actually has life put into it. Most stages in this game feel like you're walking around a desolate world with a couple Goombas all by yourself, just objects. But with Bob-omb Battlefield, there's a story. You talk to the little Bob-omb, beef with King Bob-omb, then you gotta take him down. I know that isn't a lot, but it's better than levels like Dire Dots. Immediately after loading the stage, I mash buttons like a God of War player through the little tutorials and immediately dash to the chain shop. Even though it's the last star in the Bob-omb Battlefield, it's by far the fastest and easiest to get if you know how to obtain it. And this is the first star of the run. How hard could it get? I snagged the stars in the slide, totally first try, and absolutely whooped King Bob-omb. With Regicide on my criminal record, I finished most of the stars in Bob-omb Battlefield and took a detour to get a couple stars in Whomp's Fortress and a cool mountain so I could get the wing cap. We'll get back to that later because I have a lot of super positive things to say about the wing cap. These stars included crushing the lifelong hopes and dreams of Koopa the Quick and beating another boss, who was literally just a big thwomp. Like, I know King Bob-omb is just a big Bob-omb, but this is literally just a rescaled thwomp with extra health. After collecting a whopping 8 out of 120 stars, we get to the first Bowser stage, Bowser in the Dark World. In Super Mario 64, there are 3 Bowser stages that you have to play that require a certain amount of stars. The first one requires 8, the second one requires 30, and the final one requires 70. These star requirements are completely optional due to good old backwards long jumping, of course. There isn't really much to say about these stages, you just gotta get from one point to the other with some basic obstacles. Then we get to Bowser himself, the most underwhelming Bowser fight ever! These boss battles do get a little more interesting as the game progresses, but they aren't anything too terribly special. The only good thing we got out of them was the iconic
"So long, Bowser!"
After another active Regicide, we get the remaining stars until we have access to the wing cap stage. If I talk too much about this item, we'll be here all day, so I'll just give y'all a dramatic reenactment of a Nintendo meeting when designing this item. Hey Miyamoto, what's up? The team wants to add a flying power-up since we've had one every game since Super Mario Bros. 3. What should we do? Yes, that might sound fun. Awesome, well, what should the design be? Let's just give Mario's hat wings. Okay, not as creative as the previous powers, but it works. How should it function? Okay, let's just make it work like a 3D version of Cape Feather, but make it speed up and slow down randomly with no clear pattern, and make it turn like a shopping cart. Miyamoto? That's genius! After a long session of learning what the hell the programmers at Nintendo were smoking when designing the wing cap star, we went to finish Bob-omb Battlefield, which didn't take too terribly long, not counting the 100 coin star. Despite this being, the first level of the game, I'm very convinced after 100%ing this game numerous times that the 100 coin star in Bob-omb Battlefield is one of the hardest in the game. Anyway, After about 10 minutes, we managed to finish our first of many stages. You know, that didn't take too terribly long. How hard could the rest of this run be? Now that we're finished with the family-friendly rendition of the US Civil War, we then transition into raiding Whomp's Fortress and its owl that took me an embarrassingly long time for me to figure out existed when I first played this game. Then, we finally used the key we got for mugging the poor defenseless world-conquering turtle we got a while back and headed to the Vanish Cap stage. See, I like Mario 64, but one thing that this game really sucks at are the power-ups. The Vanish Cap doesn't really have any other purpose than a couple stars in the spooky ghost house that allows for an unhealthy amount of sequence breaking, and basically just gives us access to a whopping 4 stars. So, after that, we finish up the last hour by grabbing some stars scattered across different worlds since I have an unrivaled rage for water levels and want to avoid Jolly Roger Bay for as long as possible. Unfortunately, we'll get back to that later in... To begin the second hour, I decide to just deal with it and head on over to Jolly Roger Bay to snag some more stars. There's not really much to say about this level, it's just a normal water level, it's nothing too crazy, except 2 things I still don't understand even after 100%ing this game twice. 1, how to get this goofy eel out of the ship. I just bonk into it hoping something happens, and 2, what this f***ing hitbox is on this goddamn stalagmite to get to that 1 star! Like, look at this shit! Look at it! With some much-needed progression, we take a quick detour to the next Bowser level. Again, super underwhelming. Like, wow, this is so interesting. He can tilt the stage. He still dies in 1 hit, but that gimmick that almost had a skill issue only happens once is really cool. Alright, I just want to make sure something is clear. I'm not trying to hate on this game. This is by far my favorite Mario game, and I'm trying to show how good this game is, but I'm also playing this entire game in 1 sitting, so excuse me if I have to show the 1996 in this game a little, as it's a clunky N64 game. Not the last goated game that suffers from this. Like, for example, I think this game has some of the best controls in a Mario game. Everything about the gameplay with base Mario is great, awesome, fantastic. Except for Lakitu, whose camera skills are the equivalent of a middle school yearbook photographer. I mean, it makes sense, he works for Bowser, of course he's gonna sabotage our run. So, after dealing with some more bullcrap hitboxes, we finally finished Jolly Roger Bay. Ah man, I'm so happy we're done with the water levels. There couldn't be more, right? Right? Of course there are. Thanks, Nintendo. Very cool. Then, we proceed to get more randomly spread out stars that I honestly don't have memorized, and I don't really want to talk about every single star we get. So to put it simply, we snag a couple stars from Lethal Lava Land, Shifting Sandland, Hazy Maze Cave, and some secret stars. Then we get as much done as we can on Cool Cool Mountain, and since it's an early stage, again, there isn't too terribly much to talk about in this level other than a couple things. Slide again, this time crushing the hopes and dreams of another aspiring athlete since, despite Mario being built like a single guy in his 40s, is a superhuman Olympian that exceeds mortal limitations. And of course, we attempt to sacrifice the little penguin. And I'm gonna emphasize the attempt because we instantly get hit with karma after trying to commit an Anakin Skywalker. I'll just let the clip play out. Finally, we help some more local citizens and reduce some local citizens of what I assume is that one episode of Phineas and Ferb where they make a winter mountain that defies so many scientific laws. I mean, hey, it's Disney. They probably just bought at those scientific laws at that point. We managed to complete the entirety of the Cool Cool Mountain just after we reach... Wow, that was a lot faster than hour 1. Oh, anyway, like I said, we finished Cool Cool Mountain just after we hit the 3-hour mark. The next land to breach into is Big Boo's Haunt. This is a pretty underrated level in my opinion, mainly because if there's one thing I like about gaming, it's breaking it. See, you're supposed to do the first star since it gives you access to the staircase that leads to the second floor, that leads to the rest of the stars. But, if you perform a well-executed wall jump, you can go up to the second floor without the staircase. This allows for the first star to be the second to last one you can obtain, since the second star does unfortunately require you to beat the first star. This is exactly what I did, and it honestly made the stage a lot more fun. Also, if you do a well-executed triple jump, you can skip the little bookcase switch to the bookcase star. Like, it's not a hard star to get, but it's just fun to sequence break. So, after beating this William Afton Big Boo who comes back to life, or I guess, unlife, every other star, we complete Big Boo's Haunt. Or at least, we almost got there. See, right before we finished up Big Boo's Haunt, we reached the 50-star mark. This gives us access to the final 2 stages, Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride, but more importantly, it gives us access to the Infinite Staircase. And if you've been paying attention to my BLJ cameos, you probably know where this is going. So yeah, we kinda did it on the first try, and you know what? Who am I to complain about that? Let's go! Yep, that's right. Not even halfway through this playthrough and we're already gonna beat the game. The level is about the same as usual, just a layer progression, but with some cool anti-gravity ramps that Nintendo really likes for later titles. Mario Galaxy, Mario Kart 8. So, after we finish the level, we get into the Scalding Coffee Cup, cause haha mod funny, and we get into the final underwhelming turtle fight. We proceed to eat the obese turtle some more in, what, more than one hit? Wow, this fight is somewhat challenging now. No way! So, we eat him into the minefield like a high school bet for $5 and cue the final cutscene. One quick identity crisis later and yippee, we're back. Thanks for the false sense of hope, Nintendo, because we're not even halfway through the playthrough. We still got about 4.5 hours left. Because Hazy Maze Cave sucks and Lethal Lava Land is based, I decided to skip Hazy Maze Cave for now and finish up Lethal Lava Land. The thing with the stage is that the stars outside the volcano are pretty fun, but the ones inside the volcano are kinda mid. I also like the stage because it makes the red coin super easy, which is a win in my book any day. We do the stars outside the volcano, which includes ring fights with Looney Tunes characters, and hidden little spots which are not so hidden when you know about them. Kind of removes the whole hidden part. Then we do some more bull platforming inside the active volcano, and with the power of an E rating preventing a brutal heat death, we complete Lethal Lava Land right as we hit. Now that we have the main game out of the way, all of the upcoming hours will be just collecting extra stars in all the other stages until we have no more to collect. This is the part of the run that will add the 100% in the title. We start off by doing the previously skipped Hazy Maze Cave. Again, this level is super tedious and confusing to get around in, and contains some of the most irritating parts of the run. First, because of Toad's shrunk down model, I couldn't make this turn on the ceiling climb without falling into the endless abyss. So, after multiple deaths, all of that struggle is completely unnecessary due to the fact that you can just long jump across it. Completely unnecessary steps that the game advertises. Very cool, Nintendo. And we have the moment that made me quit the stage for a second time this run. To add context, I was in this run for about 15 to 20 minutes and was extraordinarily close to getting all 100 coins, and this happened. What? Needless to say, I was a little pissed off. So I decided to take another break from this level, and that's when I realized I had access to my favorite stage in the game, Tall Tall Mountain. I really like this level. There's a lot to do here. There's different paths to take, some intentional and some unintentional, with some cool side stuff in between. Like the slide, for example, that's pretty well hidden, but has a decent reward, as I think this is the best star slide in the game. Also, there are these little guys that steal your hat and help you get stars after you catch them, which add a lot more life into the stage. It is unfortunately another climbing stage like Tick-Tock Clock and Snowman's Land, but I think the little details in the stage make up for it. So, you grab all the stars, get 100 coins by abusing the slide since it makes it corruptingly rich, and finish off Tall Tall Mountain. After living through our capitalist dream, we head into the gamer's nightmare and finish off Hazy Maze Cave. Actually, this time. Sorry Hazy Maze Cave fans, if you even exist. You gotta understand that the later stars are like watching grass grow, just to get punched and have to watch the paint dry again. Do I need to pull up the clip again? We then spend way too much time on the stage to then actually complete it this time. TD's 100 coin star and metal cap included. Oh shit, I forgot to talk about the metal cap. The metal cap is basically just this game's version of the star, with the only twist being that it makes you sink to the bottom of water, so it's not too terribly impressive. At least it has a banger theme though, god damn it slaps! The metal cap is definitely the best of the cap power-ups, but it's still pretty mediocre. One previously skipped power-up later, and boom! We're done with Hazy Maze Cave. Finally! We actually did it this time! But I really wish we didn't, because up next is one of my least favorite stages in this entire goofy-ass 3D platformer, which we will cover in... Before we enter the next stage, we only got one filler star left. And speaking of least favorite, this is by far the worst star in the entire game. Basically, you have to fly around with, oh boy, the wing cap! Everybody give it up for the wing cap! And collect some red coins on some clouds. Not too bad, a little tedious, but you can refresh the wing cap to be safe. But here's the thing, if you fall, you don't die, you don't go back to the entrance. No, some sociopath at Nintendo of Japan, Game Design HQ, thought it'd be a great idea to make it so whenever you failed an already pretty challenging star, it sends you outside the castle. Reminder, this star is on the top floor, so whenever you fail, you have to swim out of the water, go back into the castle, and climb all the way back up to the top floor just for you to probably fail again. Why? Luckily, we actually get it done pretty fast, only in like 7 minutes, and move on to the next stage. Shifting Sandland. Oh man, this is a cool level! They got some pyramid exploration, tornado platforming, and the Koopa shell. How bad could it... Oh no. Yeah, half the stars require the wing cap, the most out of any of the stages. Not only that, but they all require to be so extremely precise for the power-up that controls like a dollar store inflatable raft in a pool. I don't have too much to say about this hour because almost the entire hour is spent in this one level, so I'll just briefly describe the stars, because all of them except like 2 are utter bull. Star number 1. You gotta smack the star out of this bird, which is really hard because it is almost as fast as you are and is really hard to chase down because this power-up is near impossible to control. Star number 2. You gotta get a star at the top of the pyramid. This one isn't hard at all, it takes like 20 seconds. Star number 3. You go inside the pyramid and climb to the top to snag the star. Again, not too terribly bad. The platforming can be a bit tricky at times, but it's a pretty fair star without being too easy. Star number 4. You have to collect the coins on top of all 4 of the pillars surrounding the pyramid, and go fight a boss. The boss is pretty cool, but everything else sucks. For one, you gotta fly onto the pillars, and we all know how I feel about flying in this game. And now, I think is a pretty good time to mention that all of these flying sections, including the star, are suspended above a quicksand pit that instantly kills you if you touch it. So if you dive down to collect speed even slightly too much, you will fall into the quicksand. Star number 5. It's 8 red coins. Half of them require the wing cap, and collecting single coins above the previously mentioned quicksand pit is not very fun. Plus, some of the other ones are in really weird spots. I don't know, point being it's bull. Star number 6. You gotta collect coins on a sand waterfall, or I guess sandfall, inside the pyramid. It's not too bad other than the fact that some of these coins are on platforms that are too high for you to really be able to add proportions to your jump, and are just spaced out so if you don't fall in a perfect angle, you will miss the platform and will have to climb the entire pyramid all over again. Not too fun. Anyway, I've ranted about this stage for too long. We got the stars extremely reluctantly, had a quick food break, and then entered... Since the lunch break was pretty late into hour 5, I didn't start playing the game in hour 6 until we were about 15 minutes into it, so I'll have some catching up to do. I hate Dire Docks, like I said, I hate water levels, so we skipped it for now and went into Snowman's Land. This level is basically just a dietwish.com version of Cool Mountain, with some mechanics from other levels thrown in. For one, the big bully from Lethal Lava Land is back and on more steroids than ever, but can be easily cheesed due to the power of ice physics. There's the Koopa shell. That's cool. There isn't much to say about this level. We enter an igloo, commit vehicular manslaughter, and just move on after mugging all 7 of the Snowman stars. Now, moving on to Wet Dry World, every theorist's favorite level. Despite my hatred towards water levels, this is one of the better levels in the game, because half of it isn't even water. That's where the dry part of the stage comes from. Who would have guessed? The stage has an interesting premise and has a lot of fun sections, but the gameplay is still pretty repetitive. You swim, don't swim, get yeeted, and wall jumps. Lots and lots of wall jumps. One quick trip to the lost city of a Cartoon Network adaptation of Atlantis, and we're done with the stage. And we're going to Tick-Tock Clock. Huh? What's Tiny Huge Roll? Never heard of it. Let's move on to the next level. Tick-Tock Clock is one of those levels that, at first, it appears really difficult, but there's a trick that makes it actually one of the easiest in the game. See, if you jump into the clock while the minute hand is on 12, none of the moving objects actually move at all, so you can just breeze through the level. The stars here are really boring. Basically, all the stars have the following description. Climb up the stage and collect the star, but every time you have to go a little bit higher. So I'm not going to save the stage for too terribly long. Well, halfway through grabbing stars here, we finish up Tick-Tock Clock, and we're officially over 100 stars into the challenge. We're in the final stretch, let's go! Up next is Rainbow Ride, the final stage in the game. Or at least it's supposed to be. In numerical order it is at least. Rainbow Ride is infamous for being one of the hardest stages in 3D Mario, and by far the hardest in this game. This is mainly because of the fact that it requires the patience of a shiny hunter, or at least not one blessed by the supernatural force known as streamer luck. Not only that, but it also requires some pretty tight platforming. Overall, I think this is a decently fun stage, definitely one of the better ones. The stage definitely falls into this game's level design category of random bullshit go, but I think they executed it well. Also, the stage is gargantuan. It's huge! There's so many separate sections that are the size of entire levels, which makes collecting 100 coins pretty difficult. However, everything is made a lot easier with, you guessed it, sequence breaking. With some well-positioned long jumping, we can skip some rainbow riding, just like the title, and access some other areas that would take a lot longer to get. Anyway, we become a loyal customer of Aladdin's taxi service and get on over to Dire Docks. I just want to make a quick, unfortunate disclaimer saying that I will have nothing positive to say about any remaining part of this run. All we have left are the stages I purposely skipped and barely even bothered with because of how much I hate them. So I apologize in advance for the unhealthy amount of ranting that probably requires a therapist, but hey, it's just a video game after all, as any parent with a Home Depot membership would say. Anyway, without any further introduction, let's enter Dire Docks. Dire Docks is as bland a level can be. It's water vortexes, and pole jumping. That's literally it. I'ma just get this out of the way because it is more boring than a post-Simpsons movie Simpsons episode. We swim some more, and that's about it. Nothing interesting happened at all. And now, before we get into the final hour, I would like to introduce the final stage of this run. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the stage, the forgettable, the war crime, Tiny Huge World. Enter the final hour. Tiny Huge Island is the perfect video game example of a great concept and the most absolute horrible execution ever. Not only is this stage just poorly designed, but due to the unnatural sizes, is extraordinarily buggy. For Thick Mario, collision is a very prominent issue. Since all the platforms are super small, trying to balance and be on anything that isn't twice as wide as he is nearly impossible. And for Marketable Mario, despite being opposite in size, also has a problem with colliding with things. He slides and loses momentum super easily, and everything is really hard to trigger. For example, the wind that blows you back up onto the stage that is vital for progressing doesn't work at all? This made the 100 coin star really freaking difficult, my god. Overall, the stage is really buggy, really hard to navigate, and almost ruined the entire stream due to the fact I kinda get mad when I fail at games, womp womp I know, but when a game consistently makes me fail for things that aren't even my fault, I get pissed. Also, womp womp. But, one Wiggler homicide later, with, again, really horrible hitboxes, and we get to the 100 coin star. And I'm gonna be honest here, this one star took me an entire 25 minutes, which is about the time it takes me to complete an entire early game stage. And this is just 1 star! But, after blood, so much sweat, and an even larger amount of mental tears, we do it. We finish the final 2 stars, red coins included. We get our reward from Yoshi, our goat, and ironically, celebrate by flying around with the wing cap. Thank you guys so much for watching up until this point. Make sure to subscribe, we're halfway to 100 subs. I stream these one-session playthroughs, so if you have a recommendation, let me know down in the comments. After a week of this video's release, I'll get the most popular recommendations and put it on a poll. Make sure you look out for that. Anyway, that's enough for me. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk, and I'll see you next time.